Jimmy,
Uriah, what's
how
up?
are you, man?
Man, I'm doing good.
Dude, I'm so excited that you're back.
Thank you.
That
It's always great to be here.
oh yeah, we're gonna get into some good stuff. Tell me a little bit. I mean, it's been wild, huh?
The last 6 weeks has been crazy.
Yeah,
And I think, like, when we talk about some stuff today,
yeah,
some of it's really going to pertain what's going on
yeah,
in the market right now, and some of it's just going to be fun,
yeah,
So,
yeah.
um,
Well, let's get into the fun stuff up front, right?
absolutely.
So, so there's a race going on right
Okay,
now.
so it's called the Giro d'Italia.
Okay.
Okay. And in professional cycling, they call three grand tours. One's in Spain, one's in France, and one's in Italy.
Hmm.
And everybody knows the Tour de France, right?
Hmm.
But the Giro d'Italia is one of those ones that's kind of off the radar a little bit. But what I love about it, it always has awesome climbs. The weather is unpredictable. Like in the 1980s, Andy Hampsten went on a huge climb. At the very top, it was snowing. Yeah, he
What?
had no winter clothes on.
So you're like biking in snow.
Yeah,
How, I mean, do you prep for that like with other tires and stuff like that?
no,
Or
what he was wearing on the bottom of the climb, he was wearing at the top of the climb. So you can imagine, because the climbs are so they're going thousands of feet in elevation,
yeah,
and you know how it is in the mountains, especially in Colorado, right?
right.
It can change
Yeah.
quickly.
60 degrees, boom,
Yes,
in an instant.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's always a tough race,
Yeah.
but Italy's beautiful. I don't know if anybody's ever gone. If you haven't, please do, because it's awesome, and it's always been one of my favorites.
Yeah. Yeah. So what else why is this race so special? What is
Because the Tour de France gets all the hype, right? They get all the hype, and the teams will always send their best riders there. But to me, the Giro is just a beautiful race.
mm,
It's in beautiful country, and they're really some of the beginnings of professional cycling was in Italy.
mm,
So there's a rich history there. Plus, I just love Italy. I'm
yeah.
biased.
Yeah. No, that's totally good. So there's something about watching the pros push limits. Share a little bit of insight on that. I know you love this sport. We've talked about this before, but watching pros like do almost the impossible, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, the crazy thing is that these guys on the flats will push 1,000 watts of energy basically when they're doing the pedal strokes, right? And they're climbing 15-mile climbs.
yeah.
I mean, and they are so everything for them is so dialed in.
Mm,
Nutrition, bikes, setup,
mm,
teams, all that stuff,
mm,
because it is a science. It's not
mm,
just hop on your bike and riding.
mm.
And also, it is a team sport, because you'll have one designated leader and everybody else supports that person.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and two, like, I'm thinking like in the home buying process, right?
Absolutely.
Correlation. There's
Oh,
a little correlation, a little connection there. Just when it comes to like discipline, when it comes to foresight, like you got to kind of know what you're getting into when you do a big old tour like this, in the sense of like you said, weather. Like there's so many different things within the climb, within the tour, within everything that you're doing on the bike, right? But then in the same vein, in the home
it's
bike
the same.
process.
You
Yeah.
have your team, right? You have your real estate agent. I'm talking about purchasing.
Mm,
You have a real estate agent, you have a mortgage person.
mm,
And then beneath all that is all the people that support the
mm,
real estate agent, like service people.
mm-hmm.
How good are they?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. You have a plan, you have your team, you have your leader,
Right.
which in my case, this last time was my real estate agent. She's
Yeah.
my lead. And so it all works the same. And also, when you are racing professionally in a bike race, you might have a flat tire.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now everything changes for not only you, but for the team.
Right.
So it's the same thing when you're refinancing or purchasing, we're going to have hiccups. But do we have a plan, or do we have experience and insight? How do we best get around that and do a better job for our clients?
Mm. So good. So good. Well, let's talk about this, right? Like, so recently, like you just sold your home.
Yeah.
So nice little segue into
Yeah.
the team, right? Like so you talking about the team and all the different counterparts that you have in the transaction, that you couldn't sell your home. I mean, you could sell your home without them. It would probably take hell of a lot longer, but
I wouldn't get the
yeah.
value, the
Yeah,
money.
so talk to me about that process and what you just went through
Yeah,
this.
in fact, I closed on Wednesday. And so I'm going to plug my agent if that's okay.
Hmm.
It is Kimberly and Andy Hunsteiger. They were three Max. They're good friends of mine. They've sold my other house before that, so I always stick with what I know, right? But she comes in, her and Andy come in. We need this, 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 this. Okay, if you need this fix, here's my person. Call them, blah, blah, blah. Or they give you a list of people to call. But they just take control of the show. And I think sometimes what she had taught me when I sold my first home is that you can't get so emotionally involved with it, right? It's a home. It is an asset, right? And what you love about it and what you think may be worth a lot of money on the marketplace, it may not be.
Right.
So here's an example. So within the area I lived in, there was another home for sale in my neighborhood. You go online, you look at the photos of the home. It looks like they were taken with the realtor's iPhone and posted. No, no, it gets better. Because I was in my neighbor's home and it was all white, right? White kitchen, white walls, beautiful home. The pictures came out yellow. So if I'm looking at that house, I'm thinking, who would want to do yellow wall, right? And so when Kimberly came in, she got a photographer and she got a drone and she boom, 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 and presents so much better.
Mm,
In
mm.
fact, I was on the market 2 days and got two offers.
And that's pretty crazy for this market right now. Like
Right.
houses are sitting on the market for 60 days,
Yeah.
just sitting there, like not getting traction. I mean, yeah, they're having open houses and stuff like that, but just because of interest or whatever. What do you think the contributing factor was to your home like going so quickly?
Well, I think what it was a beautiful home. I had an interior designer come in and we worked on some stuff. But what I think it was is that Kimberly was saying, okay, Jimmy, we need to fix this, this, and this. And you can't be scared to spend money to fix your home before you sell it, right? It may like I had to get the carpets cleaned twice, and that's okay, right? Because at the end of the day, that other house I talked to you about prior was on the market since October of last. Yeah.
Jeez.
So it kills you to write checks for all this stuff, right?
Hmm.
You got to get this fixed. You got to do blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, people can walk in and say, okay, there's no surprises, right? Here's everything he had serviced before I even bought the home.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, you have a record, and it's tight and it's clean and it's ready to go to the new homeowner.
right. And,
Yeah.
and I'm like any other homeowner, there was an emotional tie to my house.
Hmm.
And, but at the end of the day, it's just a house.
Yeah.
I had my kids that lived with me for a while there, and yeah, there's a lot of emotional ties,
Hmm.
but those memories you take with you,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So it's just a
Well,
house,
and you can create new memories,
right?
right? Like you can create a new space, and create new memories in that space. So that's wild. Okay, so let's in that same vein, as a seller, what what was it like in this current market? Like, I mean, obviously you had an anomaly
I
happen, I
did.
would say.
You know what? You're right. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, like it was, I mean, you had the right team, right? You had the agent that was a killer, right? You did what you needed to do
Hmm.
to make the things happen. You're in the lending space, so if there was ever a hiccup, with that, offer and stuff like that, you would know exactly what's going on. So it was like a perfect storm
Right.
for you in this market. But what was it like as a seller in this market right now?
Well, I think you have to be really flexible as a seller, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because my buyer had some bad luck with other homes. So he wanted to look at my home multiple times. He wanted to get a structural engineer in there. And yeah, you have to get out of your home for all that to happen.
Mhm.
But then I put myself in his shoes. Well, what if that happened to me and I was buying a home? Would I want a seller that says, no, you already been in the house, blah, blah, blah? No, I just open the door. And when I met him at closing, I said, you need anything, you call me. You can work through the agents, just call me, you know? And I think that's where you have to be. You have to be flexible. You can't take what they say to heart, right? Because they're talking about your home now, right? And what do you mean
Yeah.
about my home?
Yeah.
But then you also have to be proactive. You have to work with the people.
So you would say like living living in such a way where you're unoffended.
Right.
You're not gonna, just because you had a precious memory in that room and they're making a comment about that room, you can't take that
Well,
to
now
heart.
let's be buyers right quick, right?
Yeah.
So now we're looking for a house, right?
Yeah.
Do we walk into a house and say nothing but positive things? No, we don't.
Not a chance. I'm tearing that thing apart, bro. I'm
Yeah,
going through it with the toothpick, like, because we're talking about it. For some people, it's the most expensive purchase of their entire life,
absolutely.
and so in that, there's a lot of pressure there. There's a lot of weight there. You're gonna have some major expectation
Hmm.
because you're gonna be living in this, structure for a long time,
Right.
and you're gonna be spending a crap ton of money on making this structure what you want it, and just the mortgage alone right now. I mean, you're a lender, the interest rate.
7%.
Yeah, so it's like it's the payment is excruciating.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you got to have a home, and so you're going through all the details, all the stuff, and yeah, I would not be holding back. I would not filter anything.
Right.
You know.
And I think that's what we forget sometimes as sellers
Mm-hmm.
is that when we're buying a home, we walk in and rip people's homes, right? That's a natural thing to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is. I haven't met a buyer that hasn't gone into a home and said, I don't like this or I don't like that. But it always goes back to the old saying, as long as the home has good bones,
Mm-hmm.
you're good to go.
Yeah. That's so good. So on the buyer side,
Yeah.
right? Like so many buyers right now, they feel stuck,
Right.
right? Because maybe it's the interest rate, you know, um, maybe it's just, timing, right? Like
Yeah.
and how life is right now. And I mean, the cost of living is crazy right now. Anyways, I mean, tariffs and, we talked about that last
Yeah.
time. It's like it seems like everything is going up in price right now. But um, what's the first move with the buyer?
First move is get pre qualified.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the reason I say that is, I'm sorry, not pre qualified, pre approved. Because I saw a thing on one of our competitors. It's so stupid. I have to bring it up. It's something like this is evaluated pre-approval.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're all pre-approved or validated because it goes to an underwriter.
Right.
So here's a marketing scheme behind that. You're this pre-approval from us is
Well,
more
well, hold on,
important.
hold on. Let's camp out here for a second. What's the difference between pre-approval and pre-qualification?
Okay, so on a pre-qualification, you come in and sit out in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
Give me here's my income. Here's what I think my payments are. We're just kind of going off that paper. We're kind
Yeah.
of shooting off the hip a little bit, right? But on a pre-approval, it goes to an underwriter. We have to send in docs, rerun credit, rerun all that stuff. So when that person walks in, let's say you're buying my house,
Right.
you walk in with a pre-approval, that tells me and tells the agents that, okay, underwriting's already seen this. So now it's just a matter of him staying within the lanes they give him
Mm-hmm.
and the loan goes through.
So you would say it's a little bit more official, more like it's
Oh,
already started. It's in the system. It's going
we're
through the
waiting for a
process.
contract at that point.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, because it's in underwriting. Underwriters have seen it. On a pre-qual, underwriters will look at it, but that's when we have a contract and now we send in income and all that other stuff. So it's almost like the cart before the horse on a
Mm-hmm.
pre-qual.
Mm-hmm.
But pre-approval is the way to go because you know exactly how much you can spend,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when we build that payment for you for your budget, because remember, on the payment to work into your debt to income ratio, you have to include homeowners insurance,
Mm-hmm.
taxes, HOAs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just the principal and interest.
Right.
So got to build all that to make sure your debt to income doesn't exceed what the borrower is requiring.
And that's why you really don't want to max out,
Now,
your budget in the sense of buying a house because what's the term, house poor?
house poor.
Like you put all your eggs in the principal and interest, and then how are you going to pay for anything else? Like
Well,
how are
it
you?
won't pass.
Yeah.
If it can't get past the debt to income requirement.
So that's a major, like, as far as managing expectations is concerned, that's something that right now buyers need to know.
Well, let's take a look at it right quick.
Yeah.
Let's say at my old house that I sold, property taxes were like roughly $200 a month.
Mhm.
HOA 175. Okay, and insurance about 200. $575 added on to your principal and interest.
That you're not even thinking
You're
about
not even
whenever
thinking
you're.
about it. And one thing too is when you find your number, because what we do is once we find out how much you can pay, right, with all those combine your principal, your interest, your taxes,
Mhm.
HOA, whatever it is, and then your other debt that you have,
Mhm.
it's going to give us how much you can spend on a home.
Mhm.
So now you go to the homes that you can afford,
Mhm.
right? Sometimes people go out before they get pre-approved.
Living in a fairy tale.
Yeah, and they
Yeah.
find this house and they love this house
Yeah.
until they find out what it's going to cost them. It's almost like when you see a, if I see a beautiful woman,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And I think, oh yeah, and then I found, oh no, that doesn't fit. She doesn't
Mhm.
fit me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
People fall in love with homes.
Mhm.
They do. They just automatically do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. Well. What else? How can someone know what they can really afford without being, emotionally overwhelmed? Like, what's that process look like? I mean, you kind of broke it down there with the bills and stuff like that, but I mean, should they reach out?
Yeah, I think because there's a lot of student loan out there too,
Mm,
and there's ways we have to calculate that as part of your debt to income.
mm,
So I'm talking debt to income, right?
yeah.
So let me talk about that a little bit. So the debt to income is like your car payments, your credit card payments. We don't count medical. It could be like I said, student loans, that sort of thing. And we take that number and we have to include that, your potential new house payment, into that. We divide it by your gross monthly income. And depending on conventional FHA, it has to be like, I believe the VA is 41% debt to income, right?
Mm,
So we're going to do Aggie math here because I'm an Aggie. So let's say that I make $1,000 a month and my house payment is $400. Well, that's 40%, right?
mhm.
That's how we calculate that.
Yeah.
I think eventually you can go a little bit higher on it, but we also don't, as we talked earlier, do not become house poor because life changes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, life will throw you those curveballs that you're not expecting, or you'll have a baby and you're like, "Oh crap, I wasn't ready for this," and all sorts of stuff like that, and so you don't want to strap yourself down.
No, you want to be comfortable.
Yeah,
Making that monthly payment should not be painful. It should be right. We can
yeah,
make it. We can still go out to dinner. We can go to the movies. We can hang out with friends.
yeah,
That sort of thing. You have a full life, not
yeah.
just paying for a house.
So okay, so we get our lending, we get our pre-approval,
Right.
right? How freaking important is it to have a high caliber agent?
Most important thing in the transaction.
Yeah, so you've seen the difference. You
Right.
have.
Yeah.
What do the best agents actually do differently?
They don't bullshit.
No,
I've always said it.
you're good. You can.
Yeah, they don't bullshit it.
Yeah.
You think your house is worth 700,000. They're coming in thinking, no, man, you're only at 650, Jimmy.
Hmm.
You know, because they're going to price it to sell it, right? They're not going to price it to give it away. They're going to price it to sell it. What the market is asking. Because in my case, I thought we were to sell my home for more.
Hmm.
And my agent showed me the numbers. Kimberly did. I said, Jimmy, this is where we're at.
Hmm.
Because it's not like it was 2 or 3 years ago. Where remember the values were really high, right? And so, and a good agent is always blunt with you.
Mm,
This is what you need to do,
mm,
right? And they take the emotion out of it
mm.
as far as it just being a home. So when you think about it, and we'll call this football now, right? We'll get out of the
Mhm.
cycling thing. We'll
Okay.
call this football.
Okay.
As a seller and a buyer, your real estate agent is your quarterback
Mhm.
because they know how to get through this. They know the language in the contract, right? And so you're dependent on them to guide you through that. And remember, we had that big uproar about what real estate agents can make, the 3%, and now you can negotiate, blah, blah, blah. Do you negotiate with the doctor? You don't.
Mm-mm.
And, Kimberly earned more. Let me put that. She did more,
Mhm.
even at that, even what I paid her. I mean,
Yeah.
she went way and beyond.
Above and beyond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just look at the photographs. That's
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. Yeah. She went out there and actually knocked it out of the park for you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And knowledge.
So then on the flip side of that coin, what are the red flags that buyers and sellers should be paying attention to bad agents? Like what triggers ooh, I don't know if I should be working with them.
One is you can go and find out more about the realtors through Pikes Peak's, the Pikes Peak Realtor Association.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's like anything else. Show me some of your listings, what
Mm-hmm.
you're doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you are selling, let me see your listings and see what those look like, right? As a buyer, you're saying again, how much experience do you have? There's nothing against new realtors, right? Because we're all new in the business. I was a loan originator not too long ago. So it's not that, but what's behind them,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you have a brand new realtor and they are the bloodlines of the future, as we all know,
Mm-hmm.
who's supporting them? Do they have good support? Because if they don't have good support, it's not on them. They're learning,
Mm-hmm.
right? So again, you look at the realty company, you look at the support for the realtors, how they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to ask questions. You got to ask,
What are a couple of those questions that I mean, obviously you just went through this process. So what are some questions that you asked your realtor? I mean, you've known your realtor for a little while now, but if I was interviewing my realtor either to buy or sell, like what are some questions that I should be asking?
I think one question is that okay, so we're looking at the selling end, right? First of all, have you sold many homes in this area,
Mm-hmm.
right? Do you understand? Because it's different from different areas in the city. Some are going to be higher percentage wise, and some are going to be lower. So does your selling agent have experience in that area? As a buying agent, I mean, if you're looking for a buyer or a realtor, then it's the same kind of question. Have you helped people buy homes in this area? Or what is your particular um where's your particular area that you like?
Mm-hmm.
Like there are some realtors that are specifically VA,
Mm-hmm.
which is it's a good thing. A lot of them can do VA, but some specialize, right? So I think when you sit down and talk to them and don't be in a rush, talk to two or three.
Yeah.
Listen to your gut also, because your
Mm.
gut, because there has to be, you have to work together as a team.
God, Jimmy, how do I listen to my gut?
Well, because when you meet somebody, right, you kind of have a kind of idea what they are. You can tell if they're blowing smoke, right? It's the same thing when you're talking to somebody. You can feel the knowledge and the energy, and they're not gonna BS you on stuff. They're just gonna tell you how it is. And I ask them, "What do you think the value of my house is?" Because what I did is I talked to the realtors, you know, and I just I went home, you know, and I think it's like anything else. Once you find that person, like me, it's Kimberly and Andy. Once I found them, because she sold my other house about 7 years ago, um, you stop looking.
Yeah, they're your people.
Yeah, they're your people.
Yeah, that's so good. Um, what is a trusted agent? or why is a trusted agent the key to protecting your financial future?
Two things. Well, multiple things. One is they don't price the home too low, don't price the home too high, right? So they have a vested because you're going to have a number you think, right?
Mm.
And that's when you guys talk about it. And a trusted agent will always have, okay, for instance, when I talk to Kimberly, I got to get my conference thing. Okay, Jim, here's a couple of people, talk to them. I didn't have to go out and search for anybody, and she goes, Jimmy, you got to take care of this. Okay, I will. Who do I talk to? You know,
So it's almost as if she's kind of protecting you in the sense of spending too much money with just some random
right.
vendor that's gonna smack you upside your head. Like this agent has a good book of relationships with other vendors.
Exactly. Because that vendor wants to keep that relationship with the real estate agent. So he's not going to try and take advantage of her clients. So they have that book of not only that book of knowledge, but the book of resources for me as a buyer or a seller. Because as a buyer, I might have to have stuff done. And that's like we did some stuff on in my house, the buyer did, and his realtor had for him.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have to worry about it. And it's such a relief because you've got so much crap going on,
Mm-hmm.
right? For me, I was packing, I was getting rid of stuff. My daughter, we had stuff from when she was a freshman in college through her cosmetic school stuff. So I got to tell you a funny story. So when she was at cosmetology school, they had those dummy heads where they clip the hair. Well, so I have a couch like this, the TV's in the basement. I come he hopping down the stairs and I turn around and she had one of those heads on one of the stands looking over the couch. I freaking screamed.
It's like a real life horror movie
Yeah.
in your own house. Golly, she got you, huh?
Oh yeah. But yeah, so it's to those things, as a seller, you're packing up, you're doing stuff, and as a buyer, you're in your mind, you're saying, okay, God, can I put my stuff in here and buy? So it's two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of evaluation in the move, whether you're buying or selling. There's a lot of, processing through, figuring out, and it just takes a mental toll. And so having the right agent um, is crucial.
Well, even though, I've been in the business, I've seen a lot of purchase contracts, right?
Hmm.
Kimberly still went step by step with me on everything.
Yeah.
Just so because those mortgage guys, well, they're looking at something else.
Well, and you're a vet in the industry at this point. I mean,
Yeah.
you're helping people buy homes on the financial side all day, and she's still walking you through
Yes.
all of this stuff. That's incredible.
Yeah, because that's the detail. You
Yeah.
want a person that's very detailed
Mm,
in all this.
that's good. That's good. Hey, let's shift it up a little bit. So, you came to me earlier today and you were like, "Hey, Uriah, I want to talk about this scamming,
Yeah, dude.
scamming in the. I mean, listen, we've all probably experienced some sort of scam text message, some sort of scam phishing email, or people on Facebook posing as the meta police and telling you, "Oh, you're out of conduct here, and you click this link or you're in trouble," or something like
Or
that. But
people that love you on Facebook.
yeah, yeah. But like the real estate market is kind of getting bombarded with scams. Talk a little bit.
So I was watching the news. I heard this a couple of years ago. But what's going on is that scammers kind of find where people own a home. They they make up the paperwork and they act like they're the owners and they go and they take loans out on that on that property, multiple loans.
How where do you think the fallacy is in the system?
I
How can they get away with that?
Well, because they you can do a lot of stuff with AI,
Yeah.
right? You're talking with people that are processing these mortgage loans that have never met you, right? So they're looking at you, you got a fake ID, blah blah blah. here's the address, here's all the stuff. You know, so much stuff is done over the internet now
Mhm.
that it's really hard to validate what is real and what's not real. And I think they always say, right, the criminals are always one step ahead of everything else.
For sure.
And I just think that something, especially when you don't have to have an appraisal, you know, and they go ahead and they can get, loan paperwork, take the money out. This one person, when they finally found out what's going on, they had 4 mortgages on that house.
So what happens then? How, because that owner can't be liable for those loans.
No, I don't know
So
what they do about that,
yeah.
but I think at the end of the day, we're still, and that's where they get you. You're still responsible, right? You
Mhm.
should be watching your stuff. For instance, like mine was in a trust. So if somebody tried to do that with my home, they'd have to have 2 signatures, right? And they'd have to have the trust paperwork. And
Mhm.
they can't do that.
Mhm.
If you have a mortgage on your home already, it doesn't hurt to make the phone call or to check to see if there's anything out there. Anything suspicious in the mail could give you an idea something's going on.
Mhm.
But they got to close the gap somehow because it's so easy to impersonate a person,
Mhm.
right? To
Mhm.
to say, "Oh, I'm this person," blah blah blah. And to me, it still astounds me how they get away with it
Mhm.
because you've been in the business before too, right?
Yeah.
But we're talking about the purchasing eye where you have to be there and sign the title work and all that other stuff. I don't know how they do this other stuff. It's
Yeah, I mean, well, like you said, with technology and AI and stuff, and remote closing and like
exactly.
all of this stuff, But another question I have is, shouldn't this play a part in business integrity? Like,
Scammers have no integrity.
but I mean, on the professional side, on the realtor side, on the lender side, what measures can can the professional side take to eradicate some of this mess?
I think because I've been thinking about this, and what I feel like is that there's got to be like on our phones and stuff, right? Like
Mhm.
there's
Two
like two-part
factor. Yeah,
verification, right?
yeah.
There's got to be something like that, And it's almost like with my bank, I could call my bank anytime. I give my name, my social security number. What is your verification,
Mm,
right?
mm,
And I have to give that,
mm-hmm.
and only them and I know.
Yeah.
And it's almost like we talked about this earlier. Is when people will call old elderly people and say, "Hey, this is so and so. I ran out of money. Can you send me some money?" The family has to have a verification code,
Mm-hmm.
right? Could be the
Mm-hmm.
pet name, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think that's what's going to happen is that it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot tougher to verify if you're not the real person, and that's where it needs to be. But people hate that,
Mm-hmm.
right? How many people get pissed off when oh man, I got to go to my phone, I get my code, you know. But when you're talking hundreds of thousands
Yeah.
in new debt on your
Yeah.
home, yeah,
Your legacy
yeah,
is what you're talking about. You're talking about protecting your legacy. So maybe if there's people out there watching right now and you know of some sort of like system or something that you're using, or maybe you know somebody else is drop that in the comments right now.
absolutely.
Let's have this conversation more than just, between me and Jimmy here, but you guys drop your information in and comment and send your messages on kind of what you do to protect your, I mean, trust is a really good thing,
Well,
right?
yeah,
Like,
and what the trust,
but
what we like about the trust too is that um, the fact that it has everything laid out when you pass, right?
mhm,
But it safeguards like you can put all your financial accounts into
mhm,
trust name.
mhm,
So everything is on that, and there's got to be there's a lot more verification when they start to try to get into a trust. A lot won't even try and get in a trust
Mm-hmm.
because it's too hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and there's so many different types of trusts too, right? There's
Yes.
business complex trust. There's just a normal family trust.
Yeah, just
There's
your living trust.
yeah, yeah. There and so what do you recommend to people like if they're interested in potentially like setting up a trust? What's their next step there?
Well, there's two things you can go. You can go to a trust attorney and then get off, and that can be pretty expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also online stuff where you can do stuff online. And I don't think it's as detailed as the other trust, but when we did ours, me and my ex-wife, we had our kids, we had property, we had all this other stuff that, that it was a bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
But if let's say it's just like me, my wife, and maybe I had one kid and we just have a house and typical American stuff, you can probably put it all in one trust. And then that way you got that stuff protected.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good, man. So helpful. There's a lot of information that we just covered right there.
Yeah.
And I think you've probably helped a lot of people. Do you have a final word, Jimmy, for every buyer or seller that they should hear right now, especially in the market being competitive and stuff like that? Is there something that you want to kind of give to them?
I think if you're a buyer, be flexible, be realistic, right? Don't cut corners, just so you don't have to pay so much to get your house up in order. Get your house up in order. As a buyer, know your numbers. Know your down payment, how much down payment you have. Know your credit score. Know what you can afford to buy and get pre-approved. Now we're in the sevens, and they'll be floating around for a while. Also remember though too is that they will come down. We just have a lot of stuff going on in the economy right now, but they will go down. But if you find that house and you can comfortably afford it, pull the trigger because we can always refinance to a lower rate. So
That's good. And how like somebody's watching today and they want to reach out to you and start talking about the mortgage process, how can they go about doing that?
well on my sites and stuff, I have where you can just set up an appointment with me.
Cool.
And and I put in there, I've changed it up a little bit because sometimes I want to give them my number. So let's say they have an appointment booked for next week, but then Jimmy, we got to talk today. I've given my number in there so they can contact me.
Cool.
Because it's just going to be a phone call
Yeah.
first, right?
Yeah. What's your phone number just for people watching?
It is 719-437-5151.
Awesome. And they can email you too if they
Yep.
want.
Jimmy@indigomortgage.net.
And across all social media, it's Jimmy Lenz, right?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Cool.
Yes, sir.
Jimmy, dude, thanks so much, brother.
Thanks, Uriah. It was
So
a
good.
blast.
All right.